Welcome to Front Office Pros. Today, we're going to be going through some Week 16 IDP Waiver pickups.
Hike!
All right, Joe. So for the first guy we're going to be talking about here is defensive end Alex Highsmith of the Pittsburgh Steelers, rostered in 59% of leagues. Had a pretty good game at Philadelphia. He had 8 total tackles, 6 solo with a sack. Did pretty well here these past 2 weeks after coming back from injury. What are your thoughts, Joe, on Alex Highsmith?
Yeah, Highsmith is an interesting player. I mean, you mentioned the back-to-back sacks, pretty good performances, obviously. He does have the Baltimore Ravens, which will be interesting. Lamar Jackson's not the easiest guy to bring down, but I think he'll still have enough tackles to provide you a decent floor there. But then, if Week 17 is your championship week, I really like the matchup against Kansas City Chiefs. Their offensive line has been struggling so much, though. They had Joe Tooney out at left tackle last week, blocking up Myles Garrett. So, at the very least, if he isn't able to get a sack this upcoming week against the Ravens, I really like him to get a sack against the Chiefs in Week 17.
Yeah, it'll be interesting too, with TJ Watt getting a little banged up in the last game. Sounds like they believe he'll be a go for this upcoming week, but he may not get 100% of the snaps like he's typically used to. So when it comes to Highsmith, I agree. I really like the matchup, especially against Kansas City. They've had a turnstile at offensive tackle this year. And when you think about it, with Mahomes kind of gimpy with that ankle, who even knows, honestly? Will he even be playing? Will it be Carson Wentz? If it is Mahomes. Okay, well, if he is, more likely that he will be playing, based according to Joe, but he still might be gimpy with that ankle. So he's not going to have as much mobility to evade out of the pocket. So I think it'd be a good matchup, especially in your championship weeks. Are you enjoying this episode so far? Well, if you are, subscribe to our YouTube channel, smash that like button, and hit the notification bell for upcoming videos. We do videos throughout the year, so you're not going to want to miss what we have in store. All right, so the next pickup we've got here is defensive tackle Ed Oliver of the Buffalo Bills. Ed had quite a good game. He had 3 QB hits, 1 assisted tackle, 3 solo tackles, and a sack against the Detroit Lions. Ultimately, it's been kind of a disappointing year for Ed Oliver, but he really did stuff up the stat sheet. Only rostered in 31% of leagues. Joe, what are your thoughts on him? He's got New England and then New York Jets the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, and then if you happen to play, Week 18, he's got the New England Patriots again, and according to Fantrax, they've got the 32nd ranked offensive line against defensive tackles, and the Jets are 22nd ranked as well. So I mean, 2 great matchups if you end the season on, Week 17. That's a big reason why, I felt like we should throw Ed Oliver and talk about him here. I think he can build off of the game that he had against the Detroit Lions and have good games back-to-back weeks against the Patriots and Jets here.
I was extremely impressed by what he was able to do against the Detroit Lions. From what I recall, I don't know if you agree with me, but I always thought the Detroit Lions had a good offensive line. But, then we see what they did this past week. I mean, Bills, especially Ed Oliver, had a heck of a game. And I think he had over 9 pressures, which is incredible. Obviously, more often than not, you're not going to be getting, any points for pressures. But that tells me you are around the quarterback. It's a really, really good sign. So these next 2 weeks, they're just such juicy matchups that he's the type of guy that I would be interested in going picking him up and being able to play him. I know it's kind of a shot in the dark because he hasn't been all that good, but you can't get much better in these next 2 weeks.
Yeah, even though he, hasn't been that great, but had a really good game against the Lions. You mentioned it. Like, I always thought the Lions had a really good offensive line as well. And I know they've, had injuries with Taylor Decker at left tackle, but I mean, to my knowledge, I didn't know if, any guards or their center was out. And for Oliver to win as much as he did and constantly be getting in the backfield and getting the Jared Goff, I really like his potential, these couple of next weeks with even worse offensive lines.
So next player we're going to be talking about, a guy who we were considering talking about a few weeks back, ultimately decided not to, but man, I guess we should have. And that is defensive tackle Osa Odighizuwa of the Dallas Cowboys. Had a heck of a game this past week at Carolina. Had a sack, 4 total tackles, and a forced fumble. Coming up, he's got Tampa Bay and then at Philadelphia. Only rostered in 19% of leagues. I think a lot of times that's because you might have these not defensive tackle required leagues. In our league, Joe, we've got 2 defensive tackles we've got to start. So you definitely defensive tackles do not come a dime a dozen. So having somebody like Osa is super helpful. Also had 4 QB hits. What are your thoughts on Osa Odighizuwa?
Yeah, I mean, I know we didn't choose to talk about him a couple weeks ago, but we're talking about him now, and he's honestly just continued to perform as well. He has gotten a sack every other week, it seems like. So, being that he got a sack this past week against Carolina, maybe he doesn't against Tampa Bay, but maybe that means he ends up getting it done against Philadelphia, which is ranked listed as a favorable matchup, as they're rated 25th against defensive tackles.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, when it comes to Odighizuwa, you still have Micah Parsons that you have to contend with, for an offensive line. So he's got that, pressure, and it's not just him alone having the pressure. He played 78% of the snaps, which led interior defensive linemen for the Dallas Cowboys. So I think at the end of the day, I do like him as a possible play. I think I probably would, even though Odighizuwa has been better, I would prioritize Oliver over Odighizuwa, because to me, Oliver is the bigger name, although he's been disappointing. And these next 2 weeks, I think he might just be getting hot at the right time. And a lot of times when it comes to IDP, that's all you really need.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to IDP, a lot of times you look at the matchups, and Ed Oliver's just got the better matchups, no doubt about it. But if you're looking for maybe a guy that's just safer and maybe not more of a boomer bust play like Ed Oliver, I think Osa could still be a good option, because he seems to be getting, at least 3 to 4 tackles. There's a nice tackle floor for you to, where he's not going to goose you or disappoint, because he's been getting those amount of tackles.
Next player we're going to be talking about here is the rookie linebacker, Edgerrin Cooper of the Green Bay Packers. Joe, he had a very good game at Seattle on Sunday night. Had an interception, a sack, 1 assisted tackle, 6 solo, 2 tackle for loss, 2 QB hits, and 2 pass deflections. Coming back from an injury, McDuffie's been filling in for him. Only rostered in 50% of leagues. Got New Orleans and then at Minnesota, which, according to Fantrax, Joe, in our league, those are some favorable matchups.
Yeah, definitely. With most likely Spencer Rattler playing quarterback this upcoming week for the New Orleans Saints, you got to like that. And I think it was just impressive for him coming back from that injury, and to thrust right out there to 7 tackles, got the sack, also got an interception. I think he easily continues to build off of that with the nice matchups over the next couple of weeks here.
Yeah, I think as we're seeing sometimes towards the end of the year, you might see these linebackers playing a little bit more snaps. And as I said, McDuffie's been filling in with the injury. They don't really have that. They had funny enough. We hear about them right now in the news. They had Devondre Campbell in the middle. Obviously, in the beginning, suspended. More than likely from the 49ers, probably doesn't play another down for anybody. But at the end of the day, they drafted Cooper to fill that role. And Quay Walker also was injured during that game. I don't think he came back either. So if Quay Walker is going to be out for an extended period of time, that means Edgerrin Cooper, I think, becomes the guy in the defense. He's very athletic. If you didn't follow him during the draft process, I thought he could have been more of a tweener type, but he's very athletic, can cover sideline to sideline. So I really like Edgerrin Cooper. I think he'd be a great pickup if he's out there for you.
Yeah, I really like it too if Quay Walker's out. And then if Quay Walker is out, I think maybe there's also room for McDuffie to get in there and fill in. We saw what he did when he filled in for Cooper, and if he gets those snaps, he seems to be effective when he gets the playing time.
Last player we're going to be talking about here is safety Dane Belton of the New York Giants. Joey had a heck of a game against Baltimore. Had a sack, 8 assisted tackles, 7 solo tackles, a total of 15 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 QB hit, and 1 pass deflection. Guy was all over the place, only rostered in 15% of leagues in Fantrax here. And, at the end of the day, with Tyler Nubin going on IR, he now, I think, I wondered if Jason Pinnock was going to be the guy who was going to take over. Really was Belton who who really hasn't done all that much most of the year. But he's a fill-in guy now that Newbin's going to be out. Giants offense is not very good. That means that the Giants defense is going to be on the field a lot of the time, which gives him a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, if he's going to keep giving you these double-digit tackle games with those opportunities, and heck, they keep allowing him to get those box snaps and the opportunities to get sacks as well. Got Atlanta this upcoming week. If he is in the box and blitzing, gotta love that matchup against Kirk Cousins. And then he also gets to face the Indianapolis Colts, which Fantrax rates both of those games as really good matchups for the safety position.
Yeah, I mean, the Atlanta Falcons are more of a run-heavy offense. In the most recent game we saw, they barely let Kirk throw the ball, and when he does, there's opportunity for an interception. So that's a good play for Belton there. And then the week after that, like you mentioned, that's another good matchup with the Colts. I mean, Richardson, he's been a turnover machine as far as the picks go, and they run the ball a lot too. So a lot of tackle floor opportunities. So I think with Newbin out, you don't have to be worried about that. So Belton seems like a slam dunk of a pickup.
Yeah, I agree absolutely.
So that does it for this episode. We talked about 5 players who we recommend you go out and pick up if they're still out there on your waiver wire. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time.